You've been fed a lie. It's not plastered on billboards or shouted out in leadership training. It doesn't come from your team or even your boss, not directly. But it seeps in quietly, almost invisibly. And it sounds something like this. If you're a good leader, you should have all the answers. Maybe it showed up the first time someone called you the boss. Maybe it hit when you were promoted above your peers, or when your team looked to you in crisis and your brain just screamed, I have no idea what's going on. That feeling, that shame, that panic, that pressure, it's not weakness. It's a result of a leadership lie that's been drilled into us, especially those of us who have learned on the job without the formal training, just trying to survive while keeping everyone else afloat. And here's what no one tells you. Trying to have all the answers doesn't make you a strong leader. It makes you an exhausted one. Let me take you back to a moment that still stings just a little many years later. I had just stepped into my leadership role, first time with direct reports, managing a team that I used to work alongside. I was eager, I was determined, and completely convinced that I needed to prove myself. And that meant knowing everything. One morning, someone not to be named came in with a somewhat complex policy issue involving scheduling rights and the union clauses. I mean, this is stuff that I'd glanced at before, but looking back, I really didn't know the answer. But instead of saying, let me double check, and then getting back to this person, I panicked. I gave a rushed, half right, half wrong answer, and I was hoping that it was close enough. Newsflash, wasn't. The employee escalated it. HR got involved. And while the fallout was minor, the embarrassment I felt, massive. I walked away thinking, I'm not cut out for this. But now, years later, I realized that moment wasn't a failure. It was a fork in the road. It gave me a choice. Either you keep pretending to be the all-knowing, or you start leading from a place of transparency, curiosity, a place of collaboration. Because here's the thing that most people don't understand until they burn out. Leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about creating a room where smart things can happen. Let's unpack that for a second. Think of the best leaders that you've worked with. Were they human encyclopedias just rattling off procedures and policies on demand? Or were they the ones who said, that's a great question. I want to make sure that I get this right. Let me circle back, with the right information. And then they actually followed through. Were they the leaders who made you feel safe to speak up? The ones who didn't try to impress with answers, but empowered you to find your own. See, those are the leaders I think we all remember. The ones who knew how to say, I don't know, without even flinching. But when you believe the lie that you should have all the answers, you start micromanaging. You start being that manager nobody wants to work with. You avoid decisions unless you're 100% sure. You overcompensate with overwork, trying to learn everything so that you never feel that panic again. Here's the paradox though. The more you chase certainty, the more disconnected and reactive you become. Because in real world leadership, certainty, that's a luxury. Adaptability is a skill that keeps you afloat. Which brings me to something that changed how I lead, and it's straight from the management playbook. The manager's playbook. There's a section in here that talks about the leadership reset question. Here's how it works. The next time that you're caught in that spiral, feeling like you should know the answer, I want you to pause and ask yourself this. Is it my job to know this? Or is it my job to make sure it gets done well? That one question resets your expectations. It pulls you out of the performance mode and back into leadership mode. It reminds you that your real job isn't to know every technical detail. It's to ensure clarity, direction, ownership, trust. You can delegate. You can consult. You can bring in your team's expertise. That is actual leadership. And let me tell you, when I started asking that question, I stopped carrying the pressure that was never mine to hold. I started partnering more. I started asking better questions, letting people lead in their zones of genius. And my credibility did not shrink. It grew. Because your team doesn't need a know-it-all. They need a leader who knows how to move things forward without faking it. Now, let's be honest. This shift takes practice. It's not easy, or at least it's not overnight. You might still catch yourself biting your tongue in meetings, not wanting to look lost. You might feel that old panic creep in when someone asks a question you should know. It's okay. Here's what I want you to try instead. Let's call this your leadership experiment for the week. The next time you're asked something you don't know, say so. But don't just stop there. Say, that's a great question. I don't have the full answer, but give me a minute. Let me go and look and find out. That sentence alone shifts the energy. It turns uncertainty into leadership in motion. And over time, your team will stop seeing you as the person with all the answers, and they're going to start seeing you as the person who always brings clarity, follow through, and trust. And I promise you, that is 1,000 times more powerful. So if this little lie, the I should have all the answers, has been weighing on you, I want you to know this. You're not behind. You're not broken. And you don't need to pretend anymore. You don't need to know everything. You need to be able to lead anyway. And the playbook can help you do just that. So if you're not already using the playbook, grab it. And if you have it, dig into the section leading through uncertainty. That's where you're going to find tools like how to structure decisions when you don't have all the facts, how to respond to pressure without spiraling into overcommitment, and of course, the leadership reset question, your new internal compass when you feel like you're droning in shoulds. I promise, the more you lean into not knowing, the more powerful you become. Because real leaders, they don't hoard answers. They create space for better ones. So with that said, get your coffee, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.